surge of ICE officers to Minnesota comes directly after allegations of widespread fraud by daycare centers run by Somali immigrants engulfed the state in controversy. Those scams, allegedly fleecing taxpayers of billions of dollars, drew concern and condemnation across the country, including from President Trump. The staggering sums of money involved are only part of the story. Perhaps an even bigger scandal is how long the fraud went on. Now a News Nation investigation has pieced together a disturbing paper trail that appears to show officials were warned that the fraud was happening years earlier. Our investigative correspondent, Rich McHugh, has been following the story and the money that traces all the way from the land of the 10,000 lakes to the war-torn wastelands of East Africa, quite possibly ending in the hands of terrorist group. Rich, what have you found?
Hi, Elizabeth. So a retired naval intelligence officer says he tracked hundreds of millions of dollars flowing from fake Minneapolis daycares through suitcases at Minneapolis Airport to Somalia, straight to the terror group Al-Shabaab. Philip Parrish was part of the Joint Terrorism Task Force in 2016. He connected the dots to U.S. designated terror fronts. His ignored warnings tonight raised new questions about fraud and taxpayer dollars.
In 2016, we were already tracking that it was adding up to hundreds of millions of dollars. And that was just what we were tracking then.
In 2016, Philip Parrish, then a lieutenant in the Navy, was ordered to join the Joint Terrorism Task Force and follow the flow of money to terror groups in Africa and the Middle East. Then he found an alarming tie to the U.S.
There's an interesting pattern here happening where the money's coming out of Minneapolis International Airport. Well, where's it coming from? Are they getting it in Minneapolis? Where's it coming from? Well, that led to then some research about a list of fake companies. Well, it's all cash that's coming out of these fake daycares and/or daycares with inflated numbers.
Parrish connected the dots for military operations abroad. How much money?
Hundreds of millions. You know, when you're talking suitcases of evidence reports, of suspicious activity reports from banking, TSA reports from the airport, and then the military side of the house tracking who it got to, you're talking about tens of thousands, $300,000, $500,000, all these different varying amounts daily. The open source material will tell you every other week out of Terminal 2.
Okay, so this naval officer is talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars a day leaving Minnesota Airport, going to Africa and all of these different places abroad. And then he's mentioning task force that he collaborated with. So how many individuals are we talking about? How many different task force? I can imagine FBI, DEA, maybe the Treasury Department, Homeland Security. They would normally get involved with something like this. And this has been going on. We're in 2026 now. So we're talking 10 years. So how much money has the United States actually lost to terrorist organizations and to people's pockets? I just wonder. And I'm also wondering, with the task force, no one could have superseded Biden in some way, gone to the CIA, or I'm boggled just thinking about all of this and about our government and how this kind of stuff goes on, knowing that we're supposed to have checks and balances. All right, but let's continue with the video.
But it was daily.
In 2016, 2017, you were with JTTF, and in your professional opinion and experience, the money that you saw leaving Minneapolis Airport, the hundreds of millions of dollars, was that ending up in the hands of terrorists?
Yes.
No doubt about it.
Direct portions of it were ending up in the hands of terrorists, absolutely. All the way from pirate boats being bought to essentially the administration of a terrorist network administratively.
Parrish said they tracked the money couriers to the Netherlands, then to Nairobi, Kenya, then straight into Mogadishu, into money exchanges called hawalas, the same exchanges that the Department of Treasury had already designated in 2012 as fronts for the terror group Al-Shabaab. And while the military depended on his reports, he says the public has largely ignored them.
Hundreds of men and women like me know the truth. It's been the truth all along. We don't know why we've been ignored, other than thieving and grifting, a culture of thieving and grifting that was intentional, no matter how it started.
Parrish retired from the Navy in 2019 as a lieutenant commander. He's now running for governor here as a Republican. He lays most of the blame, he says, on what he calls the Democratic establishment here, but he's clear. He says politicians on both sides of the aisle, Elizabeth, were well aware of this for years.
So what are we talking about here? The deep state, right? The deep state that God allowed President Trump to be elected to bring down. These people need to go. Okay, all of these career politicians. And as you've heard what the gentleman said, it is on both sides. I do believe that. A friend of mine's called it the uniparty. I don't think it's so much well, maybe it is the uniparty, to be honest with you. I do believe there are a few legitimate conservative people on the right, and there are probably a couple of Democrats that are moderately conservative, but they're scared to go against their party. Because when you go against your party, sometimes they can try to unalive you. I know there was a young lady, I'm not sure if she was a senator or congressman. Last year, someone unalived her, and she was voting against her party. But I'm going to share another video with you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and comment. Let me know what you think about this.
What the heck? We'll start with this one. A shocking revelation concerning hundreds of millions of U.S. dollars. They're currently being carried out of our country in suitcases and then taken directly to Europe and the Middle East. I think right about now we're having a Samsonite moment. According to reports, federal agents are now investigating an intricate and sophisticated operation which collects cash from a number of Somali immigrant communities throughout the country, stuffs it into suitcases, and then ferries it through the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport before sending it overseas. So, the reports come from an organization called Just the News. They claim that in the past couple of years alone, TSA agents have discovered nearly $700 million in cash, leaving that airport on its way to international hubs like Amsterdam and Dubai, where they then lost track of where it was ultimately headed. And how hard can it be to track down all that dough? Officials say they're highly suspicious of the amount of cash that these Somali couriers are moving through Minneapolis because it's nearly 100 times more than what they're finding in airports serving much larger cities, places like New York, Atlanta, Seattle as well. Additionally, Homeland Security officials who are following the breadcrumbs back to their original source now say that one major trail has led them straight to Columbus, Ohio, where in the past couple of years, TSA agents have found more than $135 million in cash tucked away in the luggage of American citizens of Somali origin, and which just happens to be the second largest Somali community in the entire U.S. Officials say that contrary to popular belief, in every instance, the couriers always brazenly stayed above board and openly declared the amount of cash they were carrying on their legal documents because they knew no one would do a darn thing about it. They also claim that TSA agents tried for years to alert the former Biden administration about what was going on, but that their warnings always fell on deaf ears. But in defense of then-President Joe Biden, you'll recall Grandpa Joe saying, and I quote, "We finally beat Medicare." Editor Pranoff, if you would.
We finally beat Medicare.
I always like that guy, Joe Biden. In the meantime, federal lawmakers are just now starting to catch wind of this latest scandal, with Homeland Security Committee Chairman Senator Rand Paul saying that the Somalis were so good at what they were doing, didn't even try to hide it. Also says that what we're learning right now, just the tip of the iceberg. Final thoughts, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. The pieces of this puzzle, they're so easy to assemble that a 4-year-old child with a blindfold on could easily connect the dots, and with only limited effort. Hey, look, this is a phenomenal amount of money coming out of Ohio and Minneapolis en route to far-off overseas locations, way over there. And the movers and shakers behind these transportation projects, they're described as U.S. citizens of Somali descent. I was thinking out loud, and I wonder kind of if that piques your curiosity. Now, this whole thing only sounds mildly suspicious to me because when I travel, I never carry more than a couple $100 in cash by American Express card and a big jar of these chewable Tums. Not complaining, I'm just saying that airport victuals, they're absolutely rock bottom.
Yeah, and I carry the Tums too. I need them. But we're talking about fraud that goes as far, not just Minnesota, but Seattle, New York, and Washington State. So how much have we actually lost? And from what I'm hearing, allegedly, about Ron Paul is that his name came up on a list with one of the officials from Venezuela sending a list over to our government saying that these legislators were corrupt. They were part of Maduro's on take with Maduro. So I don't know about that, because he's saying that they were so clever. Yeah, the Somalians were so clever in taking this money out of here. No one noticed. No one in government noticed millions of dollars. Now we know it's about $9 billion that was actually of taxpayer money that was actually stolen. So all of these whistleblowers, all of these people, all of these civilians, all of these TSA agents who tried to tell these government officials that this was going on, you don't remember any of them, right? So I don't know, but let me know what you think. It's mind-boggling to me, and it needs to stop. So hopefully Doge, Elon, whoever, Big Balls, that name, go and yeah, you need to go to Minneapolis. I think they're already there anyway, law enforcement, the federal authorities, and they're going over all of the books and everything else, which they need to. But you're probably going to need to go to these other states too. I know that Trump asked for um, a list from all of the states in United States. He asked for um, a list of all of the payroll list for SNAP benefits, welfare, Social Security, just to make sure we keep things on board. And there were at least 7 Democratic states that decided that they were going to play ball. So they need to be subpoenaed and sued. But let me know what you think. All right? And make sure you like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.